We are in year B in the 3-year cycle in the lectionary at Mass. It means that we will be reading the Gospel of Mark, and it's a little different from the others. Joining us now is Dr. Scott Hahn, professor of Biblical Theology and the new Evangelization, that is, at the Franciscan University of Steubenville. Dr. Hahn, welcome back. Always great to see you. So tell us, in what ways is the Gospel of Mark different from others?
Well, it is clearly the shortest of the Gospels. It has no infancy narratives. It also has far fewer parables, barely a half dozen, compared to Luke, who has 23. You also have more miracles per chapter, 20 miracles in Mark's Gospel. When I say it's the shortest, it's not only short in terms of 16 chapters as opposed to Luke that's 24, Matthew's at 28, and John that comes in at 21. It also has a really abrupt ending as well, which is somewhat controversial. In addition, there's not an infancy narrative. There's no genealogy such as we find in Luke 3 and Matthew 1. But I want to just pause for a moment and emphasize this, that some scholars prefer to look at the differences between the three synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, in order to emphasize the disparities, the discrepancies, and how competitive or contradictory they are. When in fact, I think scholarship at its best rediscovers what the early church fathers taught us all, that there is a symphony, a harmony, a complementarity, that in this case, it's a diversity that doesn't threaten the unity of the fourfold gospel. It actually deepens it and enriches it. So when we hear Mark's gospel, end of this pause, 93% of what we hear in Mark is found in Matthew or in Luke. And so this is why they're referred to as the synoptic gospels, because there is so much of a synopsis and a convergence among them. But there are other aspects of Mark's gospel that we ought to be listening for throughout the year. Just like when you're trained in music, or even if you're not, you attend a symphony and you listen for the woodwinds or the strings or the brass, not to divide and conquer. No, we distinguish to unite. The one gospel comes from these four inspired sources. And I think that Mark is especially good because the Greek term immediately occurs over 40 times. It's almost beyond fast-paced. There's a breathless and a vivid style. Mark's gospel is derived from Peter's preaching. And you can see that the outline of Mark's gospel matches almost completely with Peter's preaching, not only at Pentecost in Acts 2, but also in Acts 10. Now, what difference does this make? Well, again, it reaffirms, it confirms the tradition that Peter had a companion named John Mark, just as Paul had a companion named Luke. And so it's an exciting time because there is a vivid, fast-paced style to Mark's gospel. I should also mention that besides fewer parables, you have more miracles. You also have Aramaicisms. Only Mark has Abba Father, Jesus' prayer. You also have other Aramaic statements that you find besides Talitha Kum, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, Rabbi, Rabboni, Korban. Mark uses a lot of Hebrew or Aramaic terms more than the other evangelists. He also has more than a dozen Latinisms. So you have technical terms like the term for the census, the centurion, you have the praetorium. I could go down the list, but the more we train our ears to hear what is distinctive to each of the four Gospels, the deeper the enrichment is for us. But I would also say Mark has three passion predictions in chapters 8, 9, and 10. And by the time you get to Mark 10, that really is the climax of Mark's Gospel, where Jesus insists the Son of Man has come not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. He is the servant as the Son of Man. The opening verse describes him as the Son of God. So you have it all. Jesus, the Christ, the Son of God, the Son of Man, and the servant of us all. And this gospel is so down to earth. It's so real to life. And I think it really gives us an opportunity to come to know our Lord much more closely.
Well, Dr. Hahn, I wish we could talk longer about this, and we certainly could, but unfortunately we have to leave it right there. Thank you so much for coming on the show and speaking with us today. We really appreciate it.
Oh, you're so welcome, Tracy. Thanks for the invitation and the hospitality.